It is National Pie Day. It is the 14th of March, meaning it is 3.14, which makes it Pie Day. Is there a better day to make a pie and introduce you to my grandparents?
That's really weird. At the beginning of the video with zero context. That's just weird.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Singer Family Adventures. This is the Pie Day Disney collab, Slice of Disney Pie Day collab. It was put together, a brilliant idea, put together by Jenn over at put together by Jenn at Life Joyfully Dunn, and I assume her kids Alyssa and Alex had something to do with this too. So they're an awesome channel. Go check them out. All the channels in this will be listed below. I believe there's like 11 or 12 or 13 of us, and we're all making different kinds of pie. Now, I'm also going to talk about my grandparents, specifically Sweetie Pie, my grandmother Sweetie Pie. So this is a special picture. These are my 4 grandparents. This is my dad's mother, Sweetie Pie. The kind of short, bald man in the back is my dad's father, Papa Singer, or Herbert Singer. The woman on this side is my mom's mom, Jonelle, that Jonah was named after. Oh, Rafi was named after Sweetie Pie, or Ruth. And the taller man in the back is my papa, my mom's dad. So, Sweetie Pie lived till right before my 25th birthday. She lived longer than my other 3 grandparents, and she was a huge, important influence in my life. And honestly, I love them all, but she was my favorite grandparent. And she was a fabulous cook and a fabulous artist and just really skilled at everything, but she was more famous than anything else for her pie. And I'm going to talk to you about Sweetie Pie's pie, and I am going to make the quintessential American pie, Sweetie Pie's apple pie. It's a very special recipe. I'm not giving you all the details of the recipe. Family secret. I will say that there are variations. All of the second and third cousins, we all love this pie. So this pie like unites the Singer Sack family. And the secret is Wesson oil. It is all made with Wesson oil. So this is actually, it is optionally a vegan pie. You can put a little butter into the apple. You don't have to, but it's basically a vegan pie. So I'm here to talk to you about Sweetie Pie and to make this lovely pie today. Haha.
Cool.
That felt weird. Step 1 is prepping the apples. So this is actually Saturday night. I'm going to prep the apples tonight, and I think I am not going to finish the pie until tomorrow morning, but I have these really monster Honeycrisp apples, and I bought, I think, 9 of them, 8 of them. I probably only need about 7, but this is a really big pie plate that my mother got me. I love this pie plate. And all of us are somehow Disneyfying our pies. I'm just going to do a teeny bit of Disney decoration to my pie, but basically I am making the Sweetie Pie pie. Sweetie Pie made several kinds of fruit pies. They were all fruit pies. She made apple, she made blueberry, she made cherry, she also made peach and strawberry rhubarb. I've never made the peach or the strawberry rhubarb. I really need to learn the peach since I live in Georgia. And I will say that I have taken her crust recipe to make my other grandmother, Jonelle's pies. She made amazing pecan pies, being from the South, and pumpkin pie. Isn't this the best picture ever? This picture is like taken before I was born, I think. It's a wonderful picture. So, my great-grandmother Lillian came from Lithuania, got married, moved to America, and we think, although we're not sure, that she is the one who developed the apple pie recipe. Now, that is really special because, you know, what's more American than apple pie, right? Lillian had 3 daughters and 1 son. The oldest daughter was my grandmother, Sweetie Pie, and Sweetie Pie became the master. Her name was Ruth, by the way. She had a name before Sweetie Pie. But she became the master of this pie. Now, I have second cousins who would disagree with that statement, but she became the one most famous for her pie. She sort of really perfected the recipe that her mother had started, and she made the most amazing, amazing thin crust. Now, when you do this, it doesn't matter if you don't get every last little bit, because these are going to cook and they'll be fine. You just don't want most of the peel. So, Sweetie Pie actually was not my father's birth mother. I think we talked about that in my video of his memories some. I will actually link that video now from over a year ago when he was healthier and stronger. But my grandfather's first wife died when Dad was 2 weeks old. She died of strep throat. It was before there was penicillin, and she died in 1935, 2 weeks after my dad was born. My grandfather married Ruth, aka Sweetie Pie, in 1936. Now that's a fun fact. She is the grandparent I'm closest to, and for me it is special that I named Rafi after her, and I remind him that she is my adoptive grandmother, just like he's my adoptive son, and that love is not about blood. Love is about love, and all the time we spent together. So, that being said, what else can I tell you about Sweetie Pie? She was amazing with her pies, and I never learned this recipe from her. I never bothered to learn it, and in fact, when I was younger, she would make pie for us, like, at least once a week during the summer, and we would all be together in the Adirondack Mountains, and she would kick us all out of her kitchen while she was cooking most of the time. I do remember watching her with the cherry pitter, individually pitting the cherries. But she would kick us out of the kitchen. She'd always make pies in the morning, and there are rituals involved with the pie. One of them is that you always have to insult your pie. For Sweetie Pie, there was no such thing as perfection. She always criticized every pie she made. She always criticized every pie she made, no matter how perfect it was, and they were always delicious. So that was one of the rituals. And another ritual is that she always, no matter how many people were eating pie, and how many pies she made, and how many people wanted to finish the pie the night it was served, she always saved a piece for my grandfather, and it was put in the oven until the morning for his breakfast. I mean, not heated, but just like stored in the oven. And we all knew that it was like, we were going to be in deep, deep kimchi if we had the chutzpah, if we had the daring, ridiculous daring to touch our grandfather's slice of pie. Now, I don't think anybody ever did, because we all loved our grandfather and our grandmother, and we didn't want to be on either of their bad sides. Sweetie Pie married my grandfather when she was 18. He was 30. Or no, he must have been, was he 31? Whatever. They were 12 years apart, and she immediately had a 1-year-old son. That was my dad. And then she had 2 more kids, my wonderful Aunt Judy and my wonderful Uncle David. And we just grew up eating these pies, and Sweetie Pie would go and find the very, very best apples and the very best cherries or the very best peaches. She grew her own blueberries right next to our pool, her pool, in the Adirondacks. They built that pool the year I was born.
Is that the pool?
The pool. Jonah remembers that pool because this summer house in the Adirondacks, we had until Jonah was 9. It's very, very sad to me that we don't have it anymore. So, I'm using 8 of these great big apples. Now, I might have leftovers. If I do, I'll just slice them up and feed them to the boys. Sweetie Pie could make her pie she had a little slice of marble countertop in her kitchen, like just a square, like smaller than this, long before a marble countertop or even a granite countertop was like the thing to have. But she had it because then she could make her pies. She didn't need wax paper. She would just roll them out super, super thin. I have an image of her rolling it and draping the pie crust over the rolling pin and then putting it into the pan. Now, I say she kicked this out of the kitchen, but I also have in my mind all sorts of images of her making this pie. We always ate pie with ice cream, and there was a ritual with my Uncle Mark, who lives in Montreal, that he always said he did not have a nice balance between his ice cream and his pie. He would say, "Oh no, I'm out of ice cream and I still have this much pie, I need more ice cream." And then he'd say, "Oh no, I'm on my last bite of pie and I still have a half a scoop of ice cream. I clearly need more pie." And he would go back and forth with this as long as Sweetie Pie would let him. This is her son-in-law, and they had a very, I think, funny relationship, loving relationship. So, Uncle Mark's a hoot.
What?
He's a hoot.
Oh, I thought you were trying to say he's a him for some reason, and I heard and you just said he's a who?
Yes, he is a cis male. He is a he, him, but that was not my point.
He's a hoot.
He's a hoot. He's hilarious.
Who?
Is he not?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
But I heard who.
And I will show you more of the pie rituals when we get there in terms of how the pie is made. Now, Sweetie Pie did teach Debbie how to make the pie. I didn't learn from her before she died, but Debbie taught me, I think when I was 27 or 28, something like that. Debbie's 5 years older than me, and she is actually much, much better at all the womanly arts than I am. I am not much of a cook, I will tell you. There's not a lot I feel super confident cooking, but I know I make a damn good pie. And my goal with pie making has always been that by the time I'm a grandmother, I want to be one of the best fruit pie makers there is. So, I still have a few years left, I think. Right, Raph? Right, John?
I hope so.
I'm not about to be a grandmother. So, why do we call her Sweetie Pie? Was it because she was so famous at her pies? No, it actually was not. It was because when my oldest cousin Rick was born, she kept calling him, "Oh, you're such a sweetie pie, you're such a sweetie pie." And he thought that was her name. Now, at that point, she was already a famous pie maker, so the fact that he was calling her Sweetie Pie just stuck. And I will tell you that all of her, grandchildren called her Sweetie Pie. All of her grandchildren's friends, all of her grandchildren's spouses, even when we grew up and were adults, our friends would call her Sweetie Pie. Can you give me the... So I'm going to start cutting these apples up. Sweetie Pie is actually how I became such... I have a crappy Formica countertop. One of these days I'm going to turn it into a nice granite or marble or quartz countertop, so I just cut straight on it. I know that's bad. Don't do this at home, children. Sweetie Pie was completely pet nuts. That was not just her. I know her sisters were like that as well. And in fact, one of her nieces, my cousin Marcy, is a vet. But Sweetie Pie always, always had 1 or 2 cats, or 3, or actually I don't remember her having 3 cats, but I do remember her having 3 dogs. Now at one point, her dog, who was a Basenji, who's a kind of wild breed, an African dog, got in a fight with our beagle, bit my dad, and who does my grandmother side with? Her youngest dog or her oldest son? Dad jokes about it to this day. She sided with her youngest dog. She blamed Dad for getting bit. But she was a crazy, crazy pet owner. She loved her animals. And I will tell you, the last 2 cats she had in her life, she decided when she was older that she was done with pet hair. She couldn't take it anymore. No more cat hair. So what does she do? She orders one of those Cornelius Rex, like unbelievably ugly bald cats. My apologies if any of you have that cat. Insert picture here of ugly bald cat. She orders a kitten, I think all the way from Egypt or something, from some breeder, and gets this kitten and has it for like 3 months, and then adopts the incredibly long-haired, like as long-haired as our mini, fluffy stray that was outside. So her last 2 cats, one was utterly bald, and the other one was like one of the hairiest cats you'll ever see, because she just had such a soft heart. And something else I want to tell you about Sweetie Pie, why she was so important to me. She treated people like adults. Like she treated me like an adult. Not when I was a kid, but when I was an adult. And I think my older cousins experienced this too. My youngest cousin didn't get to experience this, but Sweetie Pie really truly bonded with people no matter who they were and what their background was. She was open to becoming friends with people, across just about every identity you can imagine. And, she really treated us with respect and like we were grown-ups. And I remember having wonderful conversations with her about a lot of stuff, including some of the hardest moments of her younger life. Not details, but enough. And what else can I say? I think, when my cousin Debbie, who is a lesbian, had a commitment ceremony, and this was long before it was legal to get married, decided to, quote-unquote marry, emotionally marry her partner. My grandmother gave Debbie's partner a card that said, "Welcome to the family, Ellen." And it was just really special. I will say my grandfather was like, "I'm not getting involved in that. I'm not going to that ceremony. I don't understand what it's about. I don't want to understand." Whatever. He wasn't terrible, but he was kind of what you expected an 80-some-odd-year-old man of his generation to react like. Not meanly. He was never mean to my cousin's partner, but just like, I don't want to deal with it. Sweetie Pie was the opposite. She was like, "You're family now." The end. And for someone of her generation, that's really special.
You're 23 minutes in. No, yeah, 23 minutes in.
Okay, so we're 23 minutes in. I could go on and on and on about Sweetie Pie. She was an amazing gardener. But I think that's one of my favorite points about her, is that she was just like, she really cared about people, and she really was warm to people. She was a really generous gift giver to everyone, and she really was interested in what your interests were. And this pie tastes like home to me. It tastes like family and love, like more than any other food that exists. It tastes like food and love. I mean, it does taste like food. Okay, so that's too much talking. I'm just going to cut the rest of these apples and we'll get back to you tomorrow. Okay, you guys, good morning. I am back. It is actually a ridiculously early time in the morning, like ridiculously early. I don't even want to tell you. It's like 4 a.m. or something. Oops, I told you. No, it's 5 by now. So I'm going to pour this in. Again, secret ingredient, Wesson vegetable oil, regular vegetable oil. When my grandfather, when it was his 100th birthday, which he did not live to, this is a very important tip I learned from my cousin, and I can picture my grandmother doing this. You got to get every last drop of the Wesson oil out. So you take 2 fingers and you wring out it out of your thing. On my grandfather's 100th birthday, we all had a family reunion. He wasn't there. He died at 87. But we all made pie. Every single cousin said, Wesson oil, Wesson oil. Okay, I'm measuring out the cold. Hey, off! No cats. Good Lord. All right, measuring out the cold water. Now is when we use the pastry cutter. The trick of this dough, because it is a very light and thin dough, is that the less it gets touched, the better. So I'm just going to gently cut this into each other. It's just flour and sugar and Wesson oil and water. That's all we got, folks. Make sure I get the dry flour on the bottom. Okay. Now this has to go into the fridge for 15 minutes at least. I find that the colder your crust is, the easier it is to work with. So I put it in for longer. It is harder to make this pie in Georgia because humidity and heat does affect it, and this is an upstate New York summertime pie, which frankly means that March in Georgia is about the perfect weather for it. So it looks a little too oily. Sweetie Pie would know how to adjust the recipe for the, humidity and the temperature. If it was a rainy day, she would probably put in a teeny bit more flour. I don't mess with any of that because I have no idea how to do it. We're back with our chilled pie crust dough. We're coming to the hardest moment of this, which is when you do the actual crust. Now, again, Sweetie Pie didn't need wax paper. I do. So here's my wax paper. She used it sometimes, but she didn't need it. Okay, make sure you're roughly wide enough. That's good. You can probably reuse one layer, not both. Now, tricky. Get a butter knife to start scraping it off the wax. You want that crust hanging over the edge. I'll show you what we're going to do with the crust in a bit. Trying to scrape this off. There will be holes, there will be imperfections. It's an interesting thing, the imperfectness of this pie for my grandmother, Sweetie Pie, because she was a perfectionist herself. She was tough, and she was bossy, and she was also such a wonderful person. It was like tough love kind of thing. She got more affectionate, like openly affectionate, as she got older. But she was always an amazing giver and gift giver and just sort of generous person. And she always showed people a lot of respect. My grandfather was an amazing guy too, my dad's dad. He really was. That's another story. But honestly, I personally, I mean, I loved him. I knew him, but I didn't have the kind of one-on-one connection with him that I did with my grandmother. I did some, but not. You know, she was a friend. Like, even if she hadn't been my grandmother, she was a friend by the time I was in my 20s. And that's pretty rare for somebody who's that much older than you. So as I said, this pie is like our family thing. We now have all sorts of chats going back and forth whenever it's like the Jewish high holidays or Thanksgiving, where we shoot each other pictures of our pies. My first cousins and many of my second cousins. My dad's the oldest of a lot of his first cousins. And so his two youngest second cousins, I mean his two youngest first cousins are just a little older than me. Okay, so there's gaps. You kind of fill in the gaps, right? We got extra. We're going to need the extra to make the crust. If you hear click, 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 that's my cats just trotting around, wondering why the heck I'm up so early. The oven is preheated to 425. This is going to cook for 20 minutes at 425 and then get turned down to 350 and cook another 50 minutes. Pretty standard pie cooking. Okay, so there's the crust, base crust. Then here are our apples that were in the fridge overnight. We just have cinnamon, sugar, and flour on here. Should have had some lemon according to the recipe, but I didn't have any lemon, and oh well. So, sorry, sweetie pie. She was such an animal lover that my oldest cousin had a dog in college. It got pregnant before he had a chance to get it spayed. She took in that puppy. She didn't want that puppy. It was a giant golden retriever. The mama dog had one puppy, and it was born with health issues. Well, if she didn't take that dog that she didn't want all the way 100 and some odd, 120, 150 miles to Cornell Vet School because they were the best vet in upstate New York, to have it treated for its health issues. My grandmother believed in having the best of everything as much as possible in life. So she never sort of went for second best. I haven't had to add any flour as I was doing this, which just shows you that we're sort of, even though it's a humid day right now, we're not at the height of Georgia summer humidity. In the summer, I have to sprinkle all kinds of flour on this, or else it's just not workable. I'm going to save some of this crust for our Disneyifying. So when I make this for a pecan pie, which is my other grandmother's recipe, I actually put both parts of the crust on the bottom so it's a thicker crust because the pecans can use it.
jelly is kind of much more on your side because it's really a much flatter surface.
Y'all, you see that? That's a little pathetic. I got some extra crust. I gotta show you how we do the edges in our family, but I'm also gonna stick on some hidden Mickeys. Watch this. Teeny little hidden Mickeys. 1, 2. I have no idea if these will come out different colors or not. I hope they do. Like, I hope they're browner than the rest, but I have no idea. We will see. All right. You need to crimp the pie crust. Now this pie pan doesn't have a real lip like the glass slightly smaller ones I have, but you crimp your pie crust with a fork all the way around. You push up the extras. That's actually a little too much extra. I'm going to put some of that over here. Kind of rearrange it, and then I can picture, I know I said my grandmother kicked us out of the kitchen, but I can perfectly well picture her, like, by the time I was a teenager, arthritic, kind of twisted fingers. You know, she had like bent fingers, but I can still picture her hands making this pie crust with all kinds of love. So yeah, the cousins and I, when it's a holiday, send each other photos of our pies, and we ooh and ah over each other's. Oops. Easiest one to make is probably blueberry because the prep is very quick for the filling. Alright, y'all, you have to take a look at this. You've got to insult the pie. It's part of the family rules. You've just got to. I don't think it's this hard in terms of the appearance. The outside is good. You've got a little bit of the sort of characteristic apple juice coming out, but I have some big crust gaps, and the Mickey didn't work so well. I was hoping it would all brown up nicely like that one eyeball, but it didn't. This hidden Mickey's kind of cute. Got one over there, one over there. So it is hot as can be. You can still hear the juice bubbling. It's going to sink some, And then I'm having apple pie for breakfast, y'all. Woohoo! And my mom was super happy when I told her that I was making a pie. This is my dad's family pie, so my mom doesn't make it. But I was like, you're going to get like a third of an apple pie today for you and your boyfriend, for her partner Jim. So yeah, they're getting apple pie, we're getting apple pie. It's really fun to do this for absolutely no reason, although hey, Pie Day is a holiday. So I will show you the slice when I've sliced it in a bit. Okay, no one was ever allowed to cut the pie except for Sweetie Pie herself. I am cutting my children and myself some apple pie for breakfast. I'm going to eat Mickey's ear right here. Now, it's very messy. It's a very flaky pie crust. See, look, flake, 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 flake. Getting the first one out, super hard. Ah! First one's never pretty, but it's always tasty. Oh, that's a big mess. If you're still here, thanks for sticking with us all this time. We'd love it if you wanted to subscribe and like and comment. Do you have a grandmother recipe you love? There's one. Time for pie for breakfast. It didn't come out pretty, but it's going to taste good. That is the taste of my family. Thank you guys, and thank you Jenn for organizing this pie day. Please go watch everyone listed below and have a magical day.